Ladies, welcome back to our channel. Hello. I hope you guys are fine, work-wise, family-wise, and your sweet selves. I'm good over here. So what are we talking about today? What's our topic for today? One of us girls reached out to me this week. She said, Aluta, please talk about insulting. Please talk about name calling. But this time it's not about other people insulting us or how we react to other people. But this time is about how can I change from a person who insults to a person who supports, to a person who encourages, or to a person who empowers, rather than destroying others, rather than making jokes at the expense of other people. So this girl said, Alut, I'm going through this journey and I've just observed that this is what I do. Please help me. Please give me the tools and tips and strategies that I can employ so that I become a person who encourages, I become a person who loves more, and I become a person who builds rather than destroys, someone who supports other people rather than make other people feel bad because they have done something that I don't want. So first of all, ladies, we need to congratulate this lady for being aware, for observing and reflecting and being aware of the behaviors that she wants to drop. All these are behaviors. When we are loose with our tongue, when we insult, when we name call, when we exaggerate about what other people are doing, these are behaviors. Remember, a behavior, when you engage into a behavior over and over and over and over again, it becomes a habit, and then it becomes a lifestyle and becomes your identity. And sometimes you'd even identify yourself like, me, don't mess with me, don't mess with me. I'm so blunt, I can tell you how it is, then don't mess with me. Sometimes it becomes your identity, and people actually know you, that you're a person who is very blunt and you're a person who insults because you have done it over and over and over again. So when you become aware that this is what you do and you would like to change, girls, we congratulate this awareness, because there is no way you can move into another space without realizing what you don't like, without dropping what you don't like, without changing the things that you don't like about yourself. So in order for you to move into a space of loving yourself, into a space of peace, into a space of connection with other people, you have to drop the behaviors that you think are not in alignment with the kind of person that you want to become. So our lady here, she wants to become a peaceful person. She wants to be a better communicator, and she wants to connect with other people from a loving point of view rather than a distraction point of view. So we are going to help her with the strategies that she needs to undertake so that she can lead her life in alignment with the kind of person that she wants to become now, a person who loves herself. Ladies, like I mentioned, this is a behavior when you see yourself that you get angry when you are triggered. The first reaction that you have is to insult or to name call. That means you are consumed by your emotions. The anger consumes you, and you lose your ability to negotiate. You lose your ability to communicate. And all you want to do is to threaten another person with fear so that they don't do what they have done. They stop doing because it didn't make you happy. So you threaten. When you insult, you're actually telling another person, don't do that again, don't mess with me. You're threatening another person rather than addressing the actual event or whatever they have done that you didn't like. You threaten the other person, and you want to exert your control, something like, so that they don't do it again. You want to put another person in fear by making them feel bad for doing whatever they have done, right? So when you understand that's what's happening in the background, It's your anger that's speaking. It's your anger. The words are coming out of anger. The insults are coming out of anger. That means you are a person who allows their emotions to take over, right? But when you are a person who is embarking on a self-love journey, we are learning to regulate our emotions. We are learning to respond differently from how we used to respond before. We are learning new responses because you want to become a peaceful person. You no longer want to be a person who confronts other people. You no longer want to be a person who disempowers other people. So that means when you are confronted with a situation that makes you angry, you now want to learn to respond differently in a way that builds, in a way that shows compassion, in a way that encourages and empowers both yourself and the other person. You want to encourage expression rather than um, encourage suppression. Okay, right. So I know with insults and name calling, for me this goes to language. This goes to language. Remember, we are programmed. Our background, our beliefs, how we were raised, and what we were exposed to when we were growing up. That's how our brain is wired. That's how our brain is programmed. So all that information, the language that we speak, it's coming from what we know. So that response of insulting and name calling, it's because we were exposed to that when we were young. If somebody does something to you and they are not reprimanded and nothing is done to them, especially when parents insult or teachers insult or whoever, an adult in your presence, when they insult you as a child, you can't defend yourself and you don't even know whether what they are doing is right or wrong. You just absorb and absorb. So you tend to think that that reaction, the insults, the name callings, is what people do. That's how people react when they experience or when they witness an event that they don't like. You then insult, you then name call, because that's what we were exposed to. So that means in our brain we absorbed that as a good reaction. So when we have our children, we name call, we insult because that was done to us, and we programmed it as a good thing because it's the adult who were doing that to us. So also when someone does something that you don't like, we insult, we name call, because in our brain it's registered as something that is okay. But now that we are going through a journey of self-love, you are noticing that no, 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 I don't want to be a person like this anymore. I don't want to carry this behavior anymore, but I want to change. I want to change my lifestyle. I want to change my identity. I don't want to be a person who disempowers another person. I don't want to be a person who makes other people feel bad. Sometimes there's things that we do. Sometimes we make fun of other people at the expense, you know, of maybe what they are wearing. We make fun of how they dress. We make jokes about people, and then we laugh. And sometimes we disguise that as I'm just joking. I was just playing with you. But sometimes you don't know how far the other person carries it. If you look at most of our insecurities today, for example, myself, most of my insecurities, they are as a result of the names that I was called when I was young. Aluta, you're not smart. Aluta, you're not beautiful. Aluta, you don't have a beautiful body. And Aluta, you're not intelligent. Things like that. So even up to now, I fight. I fight those insecurities because they then became my identity. I then identified with those insecurities. I never regarded myself as a smart person. I never regarded myself as a beautiful person because that's the language that was those are the names that I was called when I was young. You understand? And they stayed with me. So sometimes, even though maybe they were said in jest, they were jokes. Someone was making fun of me, but I stayed with them and that became my identity. But now those are some of the insecurities that I am trying to drop. I'm trying to learn confidence. I'm trying to build my self-esteem. because I no longer want to identify myself with the name calls. So that's what happens, ladies, when we do that to other people. You don't know to what extent that affects another person. Because I wouldn't want to be insulted. I wouldn't want to be called names. But when we do that to other people, we are not conscious about it. We don't even know that's what we are doing because you're busy protecting yourself. You felt angry. Somebody attacked you and you want to attack back. So you felt you are justified when you do that. They started. So I was reacting. You see, they called me first, they insulted me first, and I was reacting. So that's what we normally do when we are angry. We speak out of our emotions, we act out of our emotions. So when you now observe that you have a tendency of doing that and you now want to change, you want to drop that behavior. I have come up with 3 suggestions, 3 strategies that we are going to discuss today, how you can help yourself when you catch yourself early that I'm about to insult. What can you do about it? How can you stop yourself from insulting and react in a way that is in alignment with the new person that you want to be, that's in alignment with a peaceful person, a loving person, a compassionate person, because that's what a person with self-love does. They no longer disempower, but they empower. So I've come up with only 3 strategies today that we can discuss to help you um, dilute the anger, to help you from being overtaken by your anger, but being on top of your emotions, right? So one thing that we need to understand, ladies, is you have to make a decision. Once you observe that I want to drop this behavior, make a decision. Write it down somewhere in your phone, in your journal. Today, I am deciding, I'm choosing not to be a person who insults anymore. I want to change that. Make a decision and commit to that decision. That means from today onwards, you are starting to be mindful about the instances where where you feel to watch your language, to watch your reactions every time you feel like you want to insult. So make a decision. That's the I think the key point that I want to address here. It comes out of decision. You may be aware that this is what I'm doing, but if you don't make a decision, if you do not commit, if you don't make a decision, a choice that this is the kind of lifestyle that I now want to lead, if you don't make that decision, then every time you are faced with another event that makes you angry, you are going to react exactly the same way that you used to before. Because awareness fuels choice. Once you are aware of a behavior, you are aware of it. So the next time you react in the same way again, that means it's a choice. It's now a choice. So when you make a decision, you are now empowering yourself by choosing. I wouldn't want to react. I no longer want to insult, but I want to learn new skills. So, right. So the 3 strategies that I want to encourage our lady here to consider. Number 1 is reframe. Reframe the circumstances that are making you angry. Remember, ladies, when something happens, we interpret, we tell a story about that event in our head. It happens so fast. We tell a story and we give a narrative. And that narrative is what determines, that's what makes us sad, or that's what makes us angry, is the narrative. I'll give an example. Let's say you walk into your house, you're coming from work, and you find the sink is full of dishes. The circumstance here is the sink is full of dishes, and your children have not done what they were supposed to do. So instead of calling them out and insulting them, like, you dirty children, you lazy children, you see, you're calling them names. You never help me out in the house. Who do you think you are? Do you think you are the king of this house? You see, you are insulting, you're calling them out. Rather than doing that, because you have interpreted the dishes, the scenario, dishes in the sink mean the children, my kids, are disrespecting to me. It means they don't listen to me. It means they are challenging me. It means my children are lazy. You see, the meaning that you have assigned to the dishes in the sink is what frustrates you. So reframe. Ask yourself before you insult, before you call them out, ask yourself. Take a step back and ask yourself, how else can I look at this? How else can I approach this scenario? How else can I interpret this scenario? Because I'm now a person who no longer want to insult, but I'm a person who builds. So how else can I look at this? So reframe rather than telling yourself that my children are lazy, my children are disrespecting. How else can you look at this? Teach. I now want to teach. I want to show my kids how to do this. I want to show my kids how they can be organized and orderly in the house. I want to show my kids how they can manage their time so that they can find time to do the dishes. You see, rather than insulting, rather than calling names, decide how you want to show up in that scenario. This can happen. You train yourself. You just stop yourself from insulting and decide how you want to show up. So as a person with self-love, as a person who loves themselves, you can decide to teach rather than destroy. You can decide to empower rather than disempower. So how can you do this? How else can you do this? You call your children and ask them, how come you didn't wash the dishes? And listen to them. Maybe they'll tell you that they were doing homework. Maybe they'll tell you that they didn't realize it was time. And then teach them to manage their time. Teach them to be disciplined. Start, do it with them, show them how to do it rather than insult, because insult doesn't teach. Insult only disempowers and make other people fear you or fearful and make other people not want to be around you. But when you teach, when you encourage, when you support, when you understand, and when you listen, and when you do things together and come up with decisions together, when you negotiate, that will actually help and encourage, and you'll see in no time the kids will be doing it because you're empowering the kids rather than disempowering them with your insults. So reframe the narrative. Ask yourself, how else can I look at this, and how do I want to show up in this scenario? Do I want to empower or do I want to destroy? If you can actually see that there is no way you can reframe, there is no way you can be in that space, take some time and go and think about it. You don't have to have a knee-jerk reaction. Take some time off and say, I'll come and deal with this later. I'm not in a mood to talk. I'm so angry, I cannot talk or face this right now, but I'll take some time, go and sleep for 30 minutes, and then I'll come back. You don't have to do things in a hurry all the time, because you are choosing that I'm not a person who insults anymore. So if you see that you don't have a strategy that helps, you don't have power to negotiate, take your time, take your space, take some time away, go and sleep, come back later when your anger has subsided, and then you can come and deal with the issue. You don't have to speak out of anger. Okay, right. The second strategy that I going to encourage you ladies today is to mind your language. Mind your language. Remember, when we insult, when we name call, I've spoken about this earlier, we were raised like that. So that means that's the language that our brain recognizes. That's the reaction that our brain knows when we are faced with circumstances that make us angry. So we need to mind our language. I didn't have the language. I had to learn the language. I decided that I wasn't going to be the person who insults. I decided I wasn't going to be the person who disempowers other people, but I didn't have the right vocabulary that I wanted. So I had to learn the language, ladies. I had to stop insulting. But I just decided that I'll learn the language that empowers. I'll learn the language that encourages. I'll learn the language that praises rather than language that rebukes, rather than language that condemns, rather than complaining and shouting and name calling. If I want to name call, I'm going to call out names that are positive only. I'm going to call out the things that I want to see rather than call out the things that I don't want to see. I will focus on the things that I want to see on my kids rather than shouting and insulting and making them feel bad. So I had to learn the language. I used music, love songs. I used to listen to a lot of love songs, but this time I'm learning the language. I used to read a lot of I read a lot of love romantic books so that I build my vocabulary on how to 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 encourage other people, on how to praise, on how to recognize the good things that other people are doing in that scenario. You understand? For example, um, I used to call my kids out on homework a lot, but I would say, "You guys are not doing homework. You're not doing your homework. How come you're not doing your homework?" And I would insult and name call, in that space. But to I decided to listen to my kids, like, "Oh, how come you don't do your homework?" And then I learned that my kids were not taught about time management. They didn't have the discipline. They didn't understand discipline on how to stop watching TV or how to stop playing games and then prioritize homework. They didn't have the discipline on, prioritizing things. But that wasn't their fault because I didn't have the discipline either. You see, so I couldn't teach my kids something that I didn't know as well. I wasn't disciplined. I didn't know. I wasn't. My time management was also like, you see, I wasn't good in time management. So because I was going through this journey and learning that I needed to teach my kids, I decided to learn about discipline and time management at the same time with my kids. So that would help them with the homework, discipline on homework, and keeping their time, rather than me just shouting at them about homework or prioritizing things, important things, when I didn't know how to do that. You understand? So language, I had to learn the language. I had to learn, the vocabulary that builds, vocabulary that supports and listening. Rather than shouting and shouting, because shouting did not help. I talked for many years about homework, but that never helped. But the moment we talked about discipline, the moment we talked about time management, my kids started to do their homework because also didn't have an idea how to do it. Okay, so that's number two, language. You need to learn because you are deciding to replace the language of rebuking. You are deciding to replace the language of insulting and name calling. You want to learn a new language. So your brain needs to unlearn what it knows. So you need to replace that. Okay. So what is number three? The third strategy that I'm encouraging our lady here is, now that you are a person who understands self love, you are a person who understands that your reality is as a result of who you feel inside. So, ladies, when you get angry, when you insult, it's a projection of actually how you feel inside. That's a big one, isn't it? When you insult someone, it's a projection of how you feel inside. So remember, people are just a reflection of who you are on the inside. So you must remember that when something makes you angry, it's reminding you of something about yourself. It's triggering something within you. So learn to listen. What is this scenario teaching me? Why am I being triggered? What is this reflection all about? What is the mirror? What am I supposed to learn here? Because when something makes you angry, it's a challenge, remember. And we said on this channel that challenges are lessons in disguise. Challenges show you something, your blind spots. So when something makes you angry, rather than reacting, rather than shouting, rather than insulting, take that time to ask questions. Ask yourself questions. What does this remind me of myself? Why am I being triggered here? What do I need to learn? Do I need to learn to be patient? Do I need to learn to be compassionate? Do I need to learn to listen? Why am I so quick to judge? Why am I so quick to insult? Why am I so loose with my tongue? What is this scenario telling me? So now that I'm a person with self-love, I understand that people around me are a reflection of who I am inside. When you're surrounded with angry people, that shows you're also an angry person, because you can also treat the way you see people, how you perceive other people is how you see yourself on the inside. So when you see someone and you call them stupid, 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 it means it reminds you maybe of the times that somebody before called you stupid before. You understand? So always ask yourself, why am I being triggered here? Rather than reacting and responding and shouting, ask yourself the question, why am I being triggered here? Because my reality is a reflection of how I feel inside. So this is a challenge for me. Anger is a challenge. I must be above. I don't want to speak through my anger. I don't want to speak and I don't want to insult, but what is this scenario teaching me? What are my blind spots here? Because people around me are a reflection of how I feel inside. So always remember these three strategies. One is reframe the meaning. Number two, learn the language that empowers rather than language that disempowers. Number three, always ask yourself a question. What is this challenge teaching me? What are my blind spots? What am I supposed to learn here? What are my triggers? What am I learning about myself with this situation? Because your reality is a reflection of how you see inside. So when you are angry at something, it's a reflection. You are projecting yourself. You are projecting how you feel, how you are in the inside, your insecurities on another person. So always ask yourself those questions. So those are the three strategies that I wanted to discuss, and hoping that they will help the other lady every time she's faced with a circumstance that makes her feel angry. Reframe, mind your language, and learn about your triggers or your blind spots. Thank you so much, ladies, for listening. Have a good week and stay blessed. Bye bye.